Okay, I did not think we would get to talk about the president of Hungary in this election, but President Biden is slamming former President Trump for his Mar-a-Lago meeting with Hungary's authoritarian leader, strongman Viktor Orbán. On Friday, Biden saying Orban doesn't think democracy works and that he is, quote, looking for a dictatorship. Okay, Eliana, decipher the code switching that's going on here. Why does Donald Trump care about the support of Hungary's president?
Well, Orban has carved out a position, and this is why Trump likes him, as an anti-woke, religious Christian, socially conservative
like a
guy.
Yeah.
And yes, but and he's opposes aid to Ukraine. More interesting than Trump's visit with him, I thought, was a closed-door meeting he had at the Heritage Foundation.
What?
Which signifies, while he was in town, which signifies the fact that the MAGA movement is aligning itself with this guy. None of that is new, but I think it is noteworthy that Hungary is not an ally of the United States.
No.
Hungary is also allying itself with Russia and China, and I think that's worth paying attention to. The MAGA movement aligning itself with a country that is actually at odds with the United States.
Jeff, decipher for us, please, the politics of Eastern European authoritarianism and its intersection with American politics. Why?
Well, the intersection seems to be that Orban is kind of ishy on democracy, and it seems that Trump is kind of ishy on democracy. It seems strange that in a cycle when we know part of Democrats' messaging is going to be Trump is going to try to roll back democracy, that he would host a guy who is famous for rolling back democracy in Hungary. And look, we know how Trump feels about strongmen. If you're wondering how does Trump feel about strongmen, that feels like wondering how does Johnny Depp feel about fancy scarves. It's like he's pro. He likes them. We have much data on that at this point. This is just another data point that suggests, yeah, Trump kind of likes what Orban's doing.
Okay, go ahead.
This also shows us how the conservative movement and the Republican Party have shifted over the last 8 to 10 years to meet Trump where he is. When Trump first ran for president, there was a lot of cringing on the right at Trump's sort of flirtation with dictators and authoritarians in the first few years of his presidency. And now you see a good segment of the conservative movement cozying up to Orban in a very authentic way. They like the way he's running his country. And I've had some voters out there tell me, if Trump doesn't win in 2024, I want to move to Hungary.
Well, it's a chicken and the egg kind of thing. Is Trump embracing him because he's being promoted by the likes of Tucker Carlson and the Heritage Foundation? And it's worth noting that Orban has expanded his own power in Hungary through constitutional means. He's used the constitutional mechanisms there to gain power, which is different than what Trump did here. And so I do wonder, like, what is the sequencing here? But certainly we see major figures in the MAGA movement embracing Orban and promoting him and putting him on Trump's radar.
The rhetoric I see segments of the right embracing is an idea that this sort of strongman authoritarian approach to government is necessary to counteract the quote-unquote chaos on the left. And we saw this with Tucker Carlson's visit to Russia, where he went and basically said, look, the trains run on time. I think we know where that kind of logic can lead, but that seems to be the argument. And it's worth noting the Heritage Foundation, which I also was fascinated by the meeting with Orban. They're preparing documents and plans for a second Trump presidency.
Well, thanks for watching. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.